Ever found yourself just completely lost in a really well-crafted digital world?
Oh, absolutely.
Like soaring through skies in some fantasy realm or battling huge monsters in a sci-fi city. It's amazing how imagination creates these experiences.
Totally.
Today, we're kind of exploring the real-world financial side of one of the big architects of those worlds, Square Enix Holdings.
Right.
They've had a really challenging year, like a boss battle in business terms, you could say. And their 2024 annual report lays out how they plan to, well, reboot and awaken.
That's a great way to put it. And our mission here for this deep dive is really to go beyond the headlines, beyond just the game trailers.
Uh-huh.
We're digging into Square Enix's brand new annual report for 2024. We want to understand their financial performance, sure, but also this ambitious new strategy they've got.
Yeah.
And, how they're rethinking their business, their people, their impact.
So you're getting the story straight from the source, from the company itself.
Exactly. Insights directly from them.
Okay, let's get into it then. We should probably start by looking back at the last fiscal year, the one ending March 2024, because those numbers, they really set the stage.
They do. So the big picture, overall sales actually went up by 3.8% to about $356 billion.
Which sounds okay on the surface.
Right. Sounds decent,
Yeah.
but, and this is the kicker, their profit.
Uh,
That took a massive dive.
uh-oh.
Yeah, operating income dropped by over a quarter, like 26.6%, down to $32.5 billion. And the profit that, ultimately belongs to the shareholders, just plummeted, down almost 70%, 69.7% to $14.9 billion.
Wow, nearly 70%. That's huge for a
Yeah.
company like Square Enix.
It is. It's really stark.
So what happened? How can sales go up but profits fall off a cliff like that?
Well, the main culprit they point to is this huge over $22 billion extraordinary loss.
Okay.
And this wasn't just some, minor accounting thing. They actually terminated development on, and I quote, certain content in their main digital entertainment division.
So they canceled some projects,
Right.
mid-development.
Seems like it. Yeah. And taking a $22 billion hit for it, it tells you a lot about the risks, the sheer cost involved in making big HD games today.
Yeah, no kidding.
It signals they're having to make really tough calls, especially as they try to shift towards putting games on multiple platforms and, beefing up their internal development.
So this huge loss, it's kind of a symptom of bigger strategic shifts, maybe some struggles with making these massive HD games work financially.
I think that's fair to say, and it ties into another point. They admitted they fell short of their previous medium-term plan.
Okay.
Yeah, they were aiming much higher, like 500 billion in sales and 60, 75 billion in operating profit by this past March. They didn't get close.
Right, which definitely sets the stage for needing a new direction, a reboot, as they call it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down the different parts of the business, the segments, because it's usually not the same story everywhere. Digital entertainment is the giant, right? Like almost 70%.
Yeah, that's the core. And it's a mixed story there. Sales were up, but just barely 1%, $248 billion.
Okay.
But the operating income in that segment, that was down significantly, 38.3%.
Ouch. Why the disconnect there?
Well, within digital entertainment, you have HD games. Think Final Fantasy XVI, Evan Rebirth, Dragon Quest Monsters. Those big console titles did sell more.
Right, those are huge releases.
Exactly. But the profit declined. Why? Because of the massive costs amortizing the development expenses, spending huge amounts on advertising. It costs a fortune to launch these blockbusters.
So selling more big games, but the costs ate up the profits. Makes sense. What about the online games, the MMOs, like Final Fantasy XIV?
MMOs actually saw sales and profits decline, which is interesting because they were building hype for the big Dawn Trail expansion for Epic S5e, which just launched in July. And they mentioned efforts to keep Dragon Quest X players engaged too. But yeah, still a dip there.
Okay. And mobile, the smartphone and browser games, that market's notoriously tough.
It really is, especially in Japan, which they highlight as a mature, competitive market. So yeah, sales and profits down there too.
Any bright spots on mobile?
They mentioned Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, launched last September, got good reviews, and Dragon Quest WoG is still doing solidly. But those weren't enough to offset, weaker performance from older titles and a softer launch for Dragon Quest Champions.
So digital entertainment, their core business, definitely facing some major headwinds. But the whole company wasn't down, right? You mentioned sales were up overall.
Exactly. There were some real bright spots elsewhere. Their amusement segment, think arcades and crane games, actually did really well.
Arcades? Really?
Yeah, it's about 17% of their sales.
Yeah.
Both sales and operating income were up significantly, like income up over 43%.
Wow. What drove that?
Good performance in their physical locations, both suburban and city ones. And also, Tato Online Crane was a big hit. People love those online crane games.
Huh. Who knew? Okay, what else performed well?
Publication, that's manga, books, magazines, about 9% of sales. Also saw increases in both sales and operating income.
What was the driver there?
A big one was the anime adaptation of the Apothecary Diaries. It launched last October and just blew up. Huge hit.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that one. It's everywhere. Shows the power of cross-media.
Definitely. Leveraging that IP. And finally, merchandising. Smaller segment, under 5% of sales, but it had fantastic growth.
Let me guess. Final Fantasy merch.
You got it. Sales up almost 21%, operating income up a massive 52%, driven largely by new stuff for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and 60s.
I might have contributed to that. Just a little.
Huh. I think a lot of people did.
Okay, so summing up the year. Overall sales slightly up, but profit way down, mainly because of that big write-off and struggles in the core digital entertainment, especially HD games. But amusement, publication, and merch did surprisingly well.
That's a good summary. And it leads us right into why they felt the need for this major strategic shift, this new plan. Square Enix reboots and awakens.
Right. A 3-year plan, running until March 2027. What's the big idea?
The headline goal is to become a provider of, quote, undeniable fun.
Undeniable fun. I like that.
Yeah. And it's guided by their purpose, creating new worlds with boundless imagination to enhance people's lives. And values like deliver unforgettable experiences, embrace challenges, they're putting these front and center.
Okay, so how do they plan to achieve this undeniable fun? What are the actual strategies? Sounds like a big undertaking.
It is. They've laid out 4 core strategies. The first one is huge, enhance productivity in digital entertainment.
Okay, getting the core business back on track. How?
The big phrase here is shifting from quantity to quality.
Ah, the classic dilemma.
Exactly. They want to balance what they call product out. So the pure creative vision with market in, paying more attention to customer demand and market trends.
Makes sense. Fewer, bigger, better bets.
Kind of. Prioritizing titles with long-term potential, putting the best talent and money there, creating a layered title lineup so games launch at the right time.
And this fun that only Square Enix can deliver. What does that mean in practice?
Well, they break it down. For HD games, it means consistent, high-quality fun. For mobile or SD games, a better hit rate and games people play for longer. And for new IP, focusing on novel, creative fun.
How are they changing things internally to make that happen? Because that sounds like more than just a wish list.
Right. They're actually revamping their whole development structure, getting rid of the old business unit silos to create more operational integration.
Breaking down walls between teams.
Essentially, yeah. To streamline things, make decisions faster, avoid projects getting stuck, and redefining the role of producers, balancing their creative freedom with more organizational oversight. It's a major internal shuffle.
That sounds potentially disruptive. How do they manage that kind of change in a creative company?
That's the challenge, isn't it? The report talks about fostering a flat structure implemented back in April 2024 to speed things up and empower talent. Plus, heavy investment in training and development, which we can touch on later.
Okay, big changes in game development. What's strategy number 2?
Number 2 is diversify earnings by strengthening customer contact points.
Meaning?
Getting their games in front of more people, basically. A big push for a multi-platform strategy for their HD titles, expanding beyond just PlayStation or wherever they currently launch, to reach a truly global audience on more devices.
So more games on PC, Xbox, maybe Switch down the line.
That seems to be the implication. And for their mobile games, they're explicitly looking at bringing them to PC too, recognizing that PC gaming is huge and still growing.
Smart. What else under diversifying earnings?
Pushing digital sales harder for both new games and their back catalog. Digital means higher margins for them.
Right. No manufacturing or shipping costs.
Yeah, exactly. And they're consolidating marketing functions, getting smarter about using their own first-party data.
Ah, using player data for better targeting.
Precisely. Understanding player habits directly from their own games to make marketing more effective. And finally, under this point, a big push on cross-media, creating a new department just for global IP licensing. and integrating their merchandising teams better. Squeezing more value out of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, all their big names across games, anime, movies, merch, everything.
Makes total sense. Leverage those amazing IPs. Okay, strategy 3.
Strategy 3, create additional foundational stability. This is more about the operational nuts and bolts.
Oh, so
Global optimization. Looking at their overseas operations, especially Europe and America, finding cost savings, and making sure they align better with the new structure back in Japan.
streamlining internationally.
Yeah, and specifically strengthening their London development studio to improve collaboration across the group. Then in Japan, building that flat structure we mentioned, new recruitment and promotion systems to get the right people in the right places faster.
So organizational health, basically, making the company work better internally.
Exactly. And a big part of that is investing in their people. They're rebuilding new, higher training, they call it game dev boot camp.
Game dev boot camp. Sounds intense.
Right. Gives new hires a mock game dev experience, plus training for existing staff, especially on new tech like AI and blockchain, keeping skills sharp.
And infrastructure, too?
Yep, improving offices, upgrading management accounting systems so they have a clearer view of what's actually going on financially within different projects.
Okay, that all sounds expensive. Which brings us to the final strategy, I assume. Money.
You got it. Strategy 4, capital allocation, how they plan to pay for all this while keeping investors happy.
The balancing act.
Precisely. They're setting aside up to $100 billion for strategic investments over the next 3 years. That could be for internal development, new tech, or even potentially buying other companies they mentioned, exploring inorganic investments.
Acquisitions, okay? And shareholders.
They're committing to a 30% payout ratio for dividends, which is pretty standard. And they've authorized $20 billion for share buybacks over the next year. So signaling they still care about returning value to shareholders even while investing heavily in the reboot.
Got it. And did they set new financial targets for the end of this 3-year plan for March 2027?
They did. They're aiming for stable profit from digital entertainment, getting that core business healthy again, a consolidated operating margin of 15% across the whole company.
Up from where it is now.
Oh yeah, significantly. Remember, operating income plunged this past year. 15% would be a solid recovery. Plus, deploying that $80 billion in strategic investments effectively and achieving a return on equity, or ROE, of at least 10%.
And ROE, just quickly, that's a measure of
How well they're using shareholder money to generate profit. 10% or higher is generally seen as pretty healthy. So these are definitely ambitious goals they've set.
Okay, so a really comprehensive plan. Shifting to quality, expanding reach, stabilizing operations, and funding it all carefully. It's clear they're serious about this reboot.
Absolutely. But underlying all this strategy, of course, is the incredible power of their intellectual property, their worlds, their characters. That's the foundation.
Right. Let's talk about those legendary franchises for a moment and then maybe pivot to their wider ESG commitments.
Sounds good. I mean, Final Fantasy, where do you even start? Over 195 million units sold globally since 1987, as of this past June. Just staggering.
Mind-blowing number.
Known for pushing visual boundaries, telling complex stories, and still going strong, that Dawn Trail expansion for FFXIV just landed.
And Dragon Quest. Equally iconic, especially in Japan.
Hugely. Over 91 million units sold globally, celebrated 38 years in 2024. And it keeps evolving 3D online cloud versions, plus they're doing those HD2D remakes of the classics.
Yeah, DQ3 HD2D looks amazing.
Yeah.
Leveraging the back catalog smartly.
Exactly. And then there's Kingdom Hearts, that unique Disney collaboration. Over 37 million units sold.
Still going after 22 years.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yep, with Missing Link coming to mobile and KHIV in development. These franchises aren't just games. They're like cultural pillars for them.
Yeah.
And huge assets.
Totally. Okay, so beyond the games themselves, companies like Square Enix are increasingly talking about ESG environment, social governance. What are they highlighting there?
On the environmental side, a big focus is promoting digital downloads.
To cut down on plastic cases and shipping.
Exactly. Reduces transport emissions, saves resources. It seems small, but at their scale, it adds up. They've also made some concrete commitments, aiming for virtually zero emissions from their Japanese offices and data centers by 2030.
Ambitious.
And cutting emissions from their amusement arcades by 50% by 2050, mainly by switching to renewable energy sources.
Good goals. What about the S in ESG? Social responsibility, player protection, talent, that sort of thing.
Yeah, important stuff. For players, they stress adherence to age ratings, like CRO in Japan. And significantly, they comply with industry guidelines in Japan from CISA regarding random item distribution.
Complete boxes.
Basically, yes. And the key thing is they commit to disclosing the odds for items in mobile games. That transparency is crucial for player protection.
Definitely. What about nurturing talent, both inside and outside the company?
They highlight academic partnerships. They sponsor a course at the University of Tokyo on using AI and deep learning and game development world simulation stuff.
Wow, cool.
And they work with the Tokyo University of the Arts on a virtual game department, even having their own staff give lectures. It's about investing in the next generation of game creators.
That's fantastic. And inside the company, supporting their own employees, game development is known for being tough.
For sure. We mentioned the Game Dev Boot Camp for new hires. They also have ongoing training, including on AI and blockchain, but they really emphasize work-life balance programs that go, as they say, above and beyond legal requirements.
Like what?
Things like a daycare concierge service, flexible hours, work-from-home options, really extensive family care leave, even paid leave if your kid is sick and you need to stay home.
That sounds genuinely supportive.
It seems like they're trying. They also focus on health and productivity management. Weekly online yoga, stretching sessions, walking events to get people moving and talking, even a point system that rewards healthy activities.
Incentivizing wellness.
Yeah, and they note they've been certified for health and productivity 4 years running. So it seems like a sustained effort.
Okay, and finally, the G governance. How is the company structured to make sure it's well-managed, transparent, especially during this big reboot?
They operate as a company with an audit and supervisory committee. And the key thing here is that this committee is made up entirely of outside directors.
Meaning independent oversight.
Exactly. Designed to strengthen that. And their main board of directors is also heavily weighted towards independence, 75% outside directors as of this current fiscal year.
Bringing in outside perspectives.
Yeah, people with experience in finance, law, tech, art, media, global business. Helps avoid groupthink, brings diverse views to the table. They also have specific committees, like for deciding executive pay and nominations, again with a majority of independent directors, plus an internal control committee. It all points towards a structure designed for transparency and accountability.
So, putting it all together, Square Enix has faced some real challenges, particularly in making those huge blockbuster games profitable consistently.
Right.
But they've got this ambitious reboot and awaken plan, focusing on quality over quantity, expanding their reach, investing heavily in their people and internal structure, and leveraging those incredible IPs.
While also paying attention to their environmental impact, social responsibilities, and making sure the company is governed effectively. It's a complex picture.
It really is. And, looking at a company like Square Enix go through this, it tells you so much about the wider entertainment industry, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's that constant tension between creativity and commerce. How do you deliver these amazing, imaginative experiences, but also run a sustainable, profitable business?
Yeah. And it shows that even the giants, the established players, have to constantly adapt, maybe even reboot to stay relevant and deliver on what they promise.
Their journey really highlights the pressures, but also the exciting possibilities in building these digital worlds we spend so much time in.
Definitely. Which kind of leaves you wondering, in this world where technology and player expectations are changing so fast, what does undeniable fun actually look like 5, 10 years from now? And how will a company like Square Enix keep creating those new worlds with boundless imagination to deliver it?